Went out and got your little present.
The complete poems of John Lillison. England's greatest one-armed poet.
He wrote In Dillman's Grove and Pointy Birds. Oh, pointy birds, oh, pointy, pointy. Anoint my head. Anointy, nointy. He died in 1894. He was the first person ever to be hit by a car.
Don't you know every time I see you smiling?
It's so bad, 'cause when I see you, I start crying.
Everything to stop, but there's no denying.
In love with you, girl, is just like dying.
Oh, don't walk away. Oh, how can I make you stay? Don't turn away. I can still hear you saying those words that never were true. Spoken to her, nobody but you. Words with lies inside, but small enough to hide till your plan was through. Girl, don't you know we could work it out with talking?
Turn around or slow down your
I've
walk.
given you everything with a kiss to seal
You had to
it.
get your kicks out of trying to steal it.
Now I'm standing strange voices in my ears. I feel the tears, but all I can hear are those words that never were true. Spoken to her, nobody but you. Words with lies inside, but small enough to hide till your plan was through.
Welcome to Every Friday with Dan and Olivia. I'm Dan Miles.
I'm Olivia Dalbo.
So we heard the Monkees telling us about words right there. Before that, we heard Steve Martin telling Kathleen Turner about pointy birds and the man with two brains. I was kind of like that silly joke. Very Steve Martin, very Carl Reiner. My topic today involves words. We're going to be creating a new feature on the show today, and a recurring one at that, which is very exciting. Can you feel the sense of excitement in the air?
I'm schwitzing.
Yes, and of course, a recurring feature needs a theme, so I turned to our resident jingle composer, Robert Tomet20 Lang, and explained to him what I was after, and as usual, he promptly delivered exactly what I needed. So let's go ahead and listen to that jingle to set the stage, and then I'll explain it.
And now it's time for Good Word, Bad Word.
Good word, bad word.
So the name of... Nice, huh?
Yeah.
The old-timey thing was his idea. So the name of this feature is Good Word, Bad Word. And what this entails is I'm going to offer up two words, one that I consider to be a good word and one that I consider to be a bad word, not in the sense of being profane. I think we all know what those words are at this point. It's more about a word that you like and a word that you don't like. And they don't even necessarily have to relate to each other. So I have some examples to demonstrate this. Then after everybody gets the hang of it, I invite you all to submit your own good and bad word combos on future shows because, hey, we have a jingle. So let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. So my first good word is quintessential. And I love that word because, it's just 4 syllables. It encompasses so much, cosmically, historically, and conceptually. Quintessential, it's a reference to the 4 essences of classical thought, with the first essence being fire, which is we're going to school now. First essence is fire. That's at the Earth's core. That's why you see lava spew forth from volcanoes. The second essence is the earth, the ground we walk on that separates us from the fire. The third essence is the water that covers over half the surface of the planet. And the fourth essence, it's the air that we breathe, the sky above us, the wind. And then beyond the atmosphere, we have the heavens, which in classical thought were considered to be pure and perfect. So this fifth or quintessence is where the word quintessential derives from. So when you say something like Ella Fitzgerald is a quintessential vocalist, you're literally comparing her singing to the ether of the galaxy and, transcending this world. So I find it interesting that in just a 4-syllable word, a word can have the power to carry that much weight and conceptual gravitas. When I think of quintessential, I think of everything I just said. Classical thought, all the elements, all comes to mind. So that's my good word.
I love that word.
Quintessential. So my bad word is actually. I know everybody's thinking, actually, that doesn't sound so bad.
It has a sort of cynical, snarky... I mean, it can do. I mean, it's sort of like immediately whenever I hear that word, I think of somebody correcting somebody.
Actually.
Well, actually, no, it's not that.
That's a great point. Let me explain why it's my bad word, because for me, you have to put it in the context of a kid using it, okay? Again, I'll demonstrate. I'll say, Jackson, what do you want to drink with your dinner? And he'll say strawberry milk. So get out a glass, a spoon, milk, strawberry powder, put the powder in the milk, stir it up, bring it to the table. Here's your strawberry milk. And he'll say, actually, I want juice.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not cynical.
Another
snarky.
example. Jackson, you want to take a shower or a bath after dinner? And he'll say a bath. Go upstairs, fill up the tub, pour in the Mr. Bubble, get it all the way to the top, go downstairs to get him. He comes upstairs, goes in the bathroom, looks in the tub and says, actually, I want to take a shower. Okay, so in his vocabulary, actually just means I changed my mind, right?
Yeah, and it's also quite polite.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not saying, I think that, I want to. You know what I mean? He's actually using his words.
And you just heard actually when you said he's actually using his words. No, everybody uses it all the time. And when I say bad word, this is a kind of a jokey bad word. It's just that when one of my kids says, actually, I know that all the work I just did, whether it was making them their strawberry milk or a bath or anything else, is about to get wiped away because they've changed their mind. And he doesn't just do it to me. We were at Red Lobster once, and the waitress, told him with his kids' meal all the different sides he could get. And he tells her he wants the fresh fruit. After she writes it down in her little pad, sure enough, actually, I want fries. And, so I told him, yeah, well, you got to be careful. But decide what you want, particularly with somebody besides me. So, and a funny little tangent on that is, for a little while, my older boy, Zachary, he used to prefix things with, of course. Like I'd say, what kind of cereal do you want? He'd go, well, of course I want Lucky Charms. It was his words, obviously. It was his word for obviously.
So how old is he?
He's 9.
And Jackson is
6.
Okay, so big difference in 3 years.
Yeah.
He's kind of come into a different time where he not only is at an age where it's probably entertaining for him to be able to kind of have the upper hand of his brother. He's feeling his power, exercising it, and with his vocabulary.
And there's an element of messing with me, I'm sure.
Oh, this is with you, or has he said that to his?
He says
Jackson?
That to me.
Oh, okay.
No, they'll say it to me. Well, they'll say it to each other too, probably. But I mean, I'll just tell Zachary anything, and instead of just giving me his answer, he'll put "of course" in front of it. He doesn't do it anymore.
Okay.
It's just lasted a brief time. He's like, what show do you want to watch? Well, of course, I want to watch whatever it is he wants to watch.
Was that because you potentially maybe reprimanded him?
No, it's because he's given me the same answer before. In other words, if I say, what kind of cereal do you want? If he tells me 3 mornings in a row, he wants Lucky Charms. Zach, what do you want? Well, of course I want Lucky Charms, like I told you the last 3 days. He doesn't do it mean.
And it's a big difference if he goes, well, I want Lucky Charms, ... Of course.
Yeah, no, right.
Very different.
Yeah, that's right.
Different delivery.
He doesn't say it like, he's kind of like, yeah, he's still good-natured about it. It's like, why do I have to keep answering what kind of cereal I want?
Yeah.
So you just want to go,
no, yeah.
Of course. It's almost kind of cute the way he says it.
Oh, okay. I'm sure.
So there you go. History has been made. We've experienced our first entry in what promises to be a long-running series. We have our first official word combo. Quintessential, good. Actually,
and of course.
Bad.
Not of course. Of course, it's not one of the words.
No, that's actually just reminded me of how Zach used to say. Because Jackson still does, actually. Zachary doesn't do the course anymore, but now it sounds like you're going to pick up on it. Like, Olivia, what song do you want to hear? Well, of course I want to hear da-da-da-da. Yeah, but before I move on to further examples, because obviously I have more, I realize I'm springing this on you unprepared, but are there any words you're particularly fond of or any words you're particularly irritated by that immediately come to mind?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of anything that pops into mind.
How did you like Robert's jingle?
Robert's jingle, I liked it very much.
Now, on the first draft, he just did it with his own voice, but then he felt like it really needed a female voice as well. So he actually had a vocalist he works with named Susan Colin come over to his studio for the express purpose of recording those 4 words as a personal favor. So thank you to Robert and to Susan for their dedication to craft.
I like words that help you get out of trouble.
Okay, that's cool.
I can't think of one right now, but if you get yourself in a tongue-binding situation where you're put on the spot, to me, that's what the English language, or any language for that matter that you may speak, is for. And it's great when you can get yourself into a place where you have a word that can stop you from backpedaling or stuttering.
I got you. No, that's true. You ever have a thing also where you, and a lot of comedians use this, they're trying to say one word and then they switch to a different word that they know they can pronounce or spell? I mean,
or they say,
commonly...
so how about that they just change the subject completely and make it about sports?
Yeah, I wish I could had an example that popped to mind. There's comedians who've made an entire career out of that. And I think even Elmer Fudd used to kind of, some of those Warner Brothers characters used to do that too. My other good and bad word combinations aren't going to take as long to tell as quintessential did. So
I like quintessential. That is actually one of my favorite words.
That's actually kind of what gave me the idea for this whole feature. That word.
I like intrinsically too.
Intrinsically, yeah.
Because the word that you just mentioned, quintessentially, intrinsically, I mean, they have the same sort of flow and similar letters in them, but in a kind of a funny way, they have similar meanings.
Yeah, intrinsic and quintessential, yeah, they're certainly in the same ballpark.
Yeah, in the same, let's say in the same, they're cousins possibly. Or...
Intrinsic and intrinsically are good words. Well, Don Breithaupt, he might actually have even invented this because he put a little trademark symbol after it. How about this word, poptimistic? It's a term he coined for optimistic pop music. If you say something is poptimistic.
Uh-huh.
Kind of cutesy, I guess. Poptimism would also work,
I like the word ostensibly.
Ostensibly.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to pair a bad word, though, with poptimistic. Before I do, is there a word that you don't like when people use?
The thing that sort of bugs me is when people kind of get lazy about language and they will sort of combine separate words and turn them into one, and it lasts about 2 years and then people don't use them anymore. But
like chillax?
Yeah, no. Living in California, there's an abundance of those kind of sayings and terms and what have you, which I'm fine with because it's definitively, this state. If it's something that's appropriate for, where you're from, then that's fine. Like, I know that British people get very bothered with the word awesome because they feel like it's used too much. But then again, you go to England and you hear the word brilliant until you're, blue in the face. And that sort of bothers me too when I go back there. Or amazing,
The overuse of a word can make it wear out its welcome.
Yeah, well, because not everything is amazing. And I think that, it's great to be able to use words when they really suffice what it is that you're trying to express.
If it's not amazing, it can be awesome, and if it's not awesome, it can be amazing.
Yeah. I think that certain words can get thrown away too much, and so then I think
I agree.
It takes away the meaning of when you actually really mean them and want to say them.
Yeah, when I used to watch the show Dexter, the character who played his sister, it was so much profanity, that when she tried to really use profanity, the word had no power coming out of her mouth anymore.
Yeah.
Because she'd overused it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can also see that, especially the English, because we are using their language and their words and pronouncing them differently, and it's like there's a sense of ownership to that.
I love people who are wordsmiths. I think that I really certainly have challenged myself to try and become one, and I just think it's sort of why we speak, is to be able to use this, have the ability to use great words, and it's fun, even to learn other languages, and it's never too late. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like, if you haven't learned Latin or French or Spanish by, 20, that you're out, you're done. Or it's the same with music. You can always pick up a guitar. It's just great to challenge yourself to continue to use words to be able to really specify what it is that you're trying to say.
It may be easier to learn a language or an instrument when you're younger, but it's not impossible to learn it later.
No.
In fact, I traveled to Italy when I was in my 20s, and you just start to pick things up just being in that environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a bad word to go with poptimism, and my bad word, this is a word I see used on Facebook quite often in the little trending news feed. It's the word reportedly. What reportedly appears to mean is we really don't know if this is true or not, but we're going to pass it along and spread it anyways because we're competing for your attention and we're in a hurry. So reportedly is a qualifier. It's a qualifier of laziness.
Allegedly, I think, is right up there with reportedly. And
Yeah, they're similar. If somebody posts something online, it's basically just amounts to unsubstantiated gossip, but it's kind of juicy and people want to get attention to their website or whatever. They'll say, all right, well, we're not going to fact check it, but we'll just put reportedly in the front to cover our ass. So then if the story turns out to not be true, they can say, hey, we said reportedly.
you never, I would always, I want to go off topic here, but one of the funniest things to me when you see a newscaster, if you've ever seen a newscaster lose it in the midst of their newscasting.
Oh, yes.
It is one of the most hilarious things because they have all of these things that they're saying what they have to say and they're reading it or they're being very serious and then suddenly they get taken into a hurricane or shots and they're like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? You find out they're a completely different person than they were at face value whilst saying the information that they were reportedly supposed to announce.
Well, I've seen a broadcast where an earthquake occurred in the studio, and then the room starts shaking. And they duck under the.
That's the guy.
Yeah, okay.
You know the guy.
Yeah, okay.
Talking about. Up with the black hands.
Yes.
The black gloves.
That's right.
Yeah, that guy freaked out.
Yeah,
and
I love
it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen.
But you're right, because a newscaster, this bothers me.
Poker face.
They're supposed to speak a certain way, and they're all trained to talk sort of the same way.
Yes.
It's like the Ohio accent and the certain
official. They're being very.
I'm kind of put off by it, frankly, because I like when people you could hear the voice and go, "Oh, I know who that is," instead of, "Oh, that could be anybody."
Yeah.
And we're creeping up on somebody at something. But what I wanted to say was, to finish up on reportedly, is if you're going to designate yourself like as a valid news source, you should be the reporters and the verifiers. Because I could say, hey, Tom, did you hear that Russia invaded Cuba yesterday? And he could post, Russia reportedly invades Cuba. You see what I'm saying? He doesn't have to do anything else. He doesn't know if it happened, but he just heard it from me. So basically, to me, that if you ever see the word reportedly in a headline, it's a red flag for low journalistic standards, in my opinion. So there you go. Bad word, reportedly. And speaking of people with vocabularies and a skill for verbiage,
a wordsmith himself, Mr. Tom Bowers.
Let's bring him on.
Tom at 20! Boy, it feels so good to use that sounder again, huh?
I know, I've got my little stopwatch here, and I'm trying to get back to, as everybody can probably tell, we're not on Skype, we're in the studio together, we're in Tom's studio, I've got my stopwatch, I got my TV tray with my laptop on it, we're doing it live, and as I came up with this idea, I thought, in fact, Tom, Livy was talking about mashing two words together. I threw out chillax because, I'm chilling, I'm relaxing, I'm chillaxing. A regional thing that always occurs to me as a California thing is the word hella. It's a short version of hell of a. Oh, that's a hell of a great thing. That's hella great, But Tom,
hellacious.
There's a word I've heard Tom use as kind of a mashup, and I'm also interested if you created it. It's a twist on automatically. It's the word automagically.
No, I think that's engineer speak for certain internet functions and certain automated functions. Actually, it's probably not even engineer speak, because engineers wouldn't brook that kind of nonsense. It's probably marketing speak, really. It's marketing speak for something an engineer painstakingly created to be something down to earth.
Automagically, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you were jotting down your good words and bad words.
I was just texting with Fran as we were in the middle of all this, because recently the two of us learned that there was a word we had been misusing, and it was shocking because the word meant almost exactly the opposite of what it was.
What is
we
it?
thought it meant. Sadly, I cannot remember, and I'm talking with her, and she cannot remember either, although she threw out a good one, which is the word peruse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It actually means to... It actually... means to examine carefully, not to skim. Although
Yeah.
most people will say it's the second thing.
I thought it meant skim.
Yeah.
I'm perusing the contract right now. Yeah.
So that's a good example, but the one that really sort of shook me to my core. I can't remember which one.
Well,
it was.
that makes me think of LOL, laughing out loud. There was one of those texts your grandma does that they don't. Somebody had died and she kept putting such and such died. LOL. She thought it meant lots of love. So she was like, "Oh, Uncle somebody such and such died. LOL. Oh, you're laughing about that guy's dead. Oh, it doesn't mean lots of love." So.
I just like that as a word unto itself. I will sometimes just say "lol."
Yeah, and my kids use a couple of those texting abbreviations in their speech too. I've noticed.
Right.
Another thing that I thought of about combining stuff is I had a friend. She would combine "I kid you not" and "I swear to God," and she'd say "I swear you not," which actually makes no sense.
Yeah.
She'll go, "Oh, I swear you not." This, I was like, "Wait a minute, I swear you not? What the hell? I swear to God, I kid you not."
I kind of dig that.
Yeah, it was it's memorable, but I mean, she didn't use it like in a joking way. It's like that was sort of like, "I swear to God, I swear you not." Okay.
Speaking of portmanteaus, possidoable is one that I like.
Oh, I like that.
I have some friends who use that in terms of like, you think you can get that done by Tuesday? It's possidoable.
That's a good one. And as I said, I'm opening up a can of worms here because we have a jingle, and we're not going to do another entire episode devoted to this, but I'm curious to hear what our listeners are going to send in, because I know as they listen to us talk, and our listeners are very creative, I know they're going, "Oh, I hope they don't say this word or that word because I want to use it." So what we'll do in future shows is we'll just drop the jingle in, such and such submitted this good and bad word, move on.
Or make it just having them do the word combinations. Not so much. I like this word. I don't like that word. But like, here's a cool. For those of you who need to, who have no time to waste, and you need to combine as many words as possible.
This is
Boom.
the birth of a feature. It can be whatever you want. But another word I had as a quote unquote good word that's kind of lined with intrinsic and words that you can cover yourself with. I like the word eclectic.
Yes.
Because when somebody walks into your house and says, "Nothing in your house matches," you can go, "I know. I'm eclectic. Isn't that great?" It's like, "Oh, I thought you were just clueless and had no taste." No, eclectic.
I used to use that word in the band bios back when band bios were a thing that I would do. We consider ourselves an eclectic band, or as they said in the 70s, a band. Anyway,
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it went over about as well in this room as it did with booking agents.
Well, God, when I heard, I actually have another bad word, and some of the other ones I've mentioned, like actually, and this one actually seems to be the word of the day. This one actually kind of does bug me.
You could just replace actually with totally.
This
And
one
it'd probably
totally.
be just as annoying.
This is so amazing and awesome.
Brilliantly, totally, and actually
Right.
wonderful.
I've heard this word used a little bit lately. It kind of bugs me. This is the word breeder. This is like if a gay person or a childless heterosexual person, this is how they describe people who have offspring, as breeders. Okay. My sense is if you don't want to have kids or you're not able to have kids for any reason, that's fine and well. That's your right. But the word you need to use is parents. Don't call us breeders.
Is that? I've never heard. Really, is that something?
It's kind
that's
of a
being
newer
thrown around?
thing.
Well, two things.
With what kind of people, though?
Yeah, now we're going to get into this whole debate about this. But I would say two things. First of all, I wouldn't use parents because the ability to biologically reproduce does not make you a parent,
Right.
In any meaningful sense. And also,
You got to earn parent. You got to earn that.
right. And also, I think it's. I've heard this too, and it's a rude thing to say. I won't deny that, but I think it comes as a sort of reaction to the many, many rude, offensive, and oppressive terms used to describe people who don't fit into the mainstream idea of what society.
Or how about, when are you guys going to have kids? When are you guys going to have kids? You guys going to have kids yet? The expectation. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
The way I've taken it when I've heard it is sort of rude and derogatory.
It's a fire with fire kind of thing.
Yeah,
But,
that's true. That's a good
But
point.
it comes from a place of,
When you hear about, depending on who's using it, when you hear about breeding, it makes you think of like animals on the farm or like an assembly line. It's like, I feel like somebody's diminishing me by calling me as a parent and my two kids, "Oh, he's a breeder." If you choose not to have kids and then someone does, and you go, "Oh, you're a breeder."
And we're on a
This is an
show.
episode about words.
And nor is a procreator.
Yeah. But speaking of words that start with P, though, I didn't get to do my good word, which is plenipotentiary.
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 Yes, it means full powers, having been invested with full powers, and usually it's used to describe an envoy or a diplomat in a government. But it can, as an adjective, mean anything that is invested with the full ability to do the thing that is intended to be done. Plenipotentiary. I dig that word a lot.
Could you use it in a sentence?
Yes. I have the plenipotentiary ability to edit this podcast. No, I don't.
So yeah.
No, I can't. I mean, if you're saying as an adjective, you have to be modifying a noun. So I would say that my function on the... How would I do that? I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Well,
I was just going to give you the gong.
No, you might as well go ahead.
And get back to us on that, and we're still waiting for Fran to text from San Diego with the other forgotten word.
And a bad word. I'll give you two
Yeah,
bad.
give
I'll
us.
give you two bad words. One is one that other people use that drives me nuts, and that's the word classy. It's one of those words that I don't think you can say earnestly anymore and still have people take you seriously. If you say it ironically, go ahead, you're fine.
Yeah.
Number two, this is a word that I use all the time. It's one of those audible pause words. It's one of those words you say when you don't have anything to say, but you want to use it as a pivot point to get to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And once you've heard it and you listen to any amount of podcasting I do, you'll never be able to unhear it. And that's the word indeed. I definitely not misuse, but overuse that word.
I do too.
It's one of those things like and and that sort of thing where you're trying to limit that as much as possible. But it's a work in progress.
It's not as bad of one. And as Olivia says, it depends on the inflection you use it with. Because you can be like, indeed, like you're interested, or like, indeed.
If you're on like Masterpiece Theatre or something like that.
No,
I'm kidding.
It's a good word at its root,
yes.
And it can be used in many ways. But it's like what you were saying earlier about the Dexter thing. About if you chew the flavor out of it, then it loses its.
It just becomes your placeholder.
It becomes far less a plenipotentiary word.
It actually, it's one of my favorite words. Yet a word that I would like to find another word to replace that's better, because sometimes it's a good conduit to get me into the next place of conversation. You know what I'm saying? It allows me to kind of...
Indeed, you mean?
So to me, usually this is just me personally, but more times than not, I'm using it as a way to think of something else to say.
Well, conduit's a pretty cool word too, actually. Conduit. Let me give you, I think it was the last little combination I had because they're quick. As a musician, another good word for me is melody.
Yes.
Because melody, it makes you think of music. It makes you think of all music.
Yeah.
And the word itself is even kind of melodic. Melody.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that?
Yeah.
I'm very fond of the word mellifluous.
Yeah.
I also love the word cacophony.
Cacophony, yeah. Well, I learned the word mellifluous because it was one of the settings on, you'll get like a pedal board or something, and it'll have all these different descriptions of the different settings. And it was like a reverb. There was the different reverbs for vocals, and one of them was mellifluous. And so I actually saw the word written the first time I ever exposed. Hey, I just created a word. I was going to say exposed, and I said explosed. What can we do with that? Well, I wrote in my outline here my final bad word, so this must be my last combo. I guess this also has a musical component. I mean, with this one, I have a clip to serve as an auditory aid. So let's listen to this.
Can I write a check?
Yo.
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 Can I write a check?
Yo.
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 Yo. Yo.
Yo.
Yo.
Yo.
Can I write a check?
Yo.
Next time, use the Visa check card instead of checks. It'll get you in, out, and on with life.
Yo.
Gee. Yo, gee.
Yo.
I imagine there's some people who find that funny. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, that other term.
Yo, yeah. I mean,
yeah, what's good?
So the Chinese basketball player Yao Ming goes into a store where the only word the cashier and her supervisor appear to know is yo. And no matter what he says to them, they say yo to him and then act surprised when he doesn't understand the meaning, of their monosyllabic grunting. Kind of like Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, but without the funniness or the cuteness.
But I mean, let me just interject. what doesn't it have different connotations? I mean, isn't it subjective to the person saying it? Like, if you come in and you're like, you know, yo, I mean, are you? Is it just a way of sort of like saying, you know, acknowledging somebody, like I'm here, or is it like? Do you think you're entering the room saying yo with maybe the person knowing why you're there anyway? I mean, or is it just a street slang saying, you know, what's up?
We were speaking about words that are overused. To me,
Yes.
yo is way at the top of that list.
Right.
Well, it's a salutation, right?
Yeah.
But it's also an affirmation. You can say it in place of saying yes.
But he doesn't know what they mean,
Right.
and instead of explaining it, they just keep saying
There's a whole who's on first about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, basically, if I was to rewrite the commercial, it would go like this: Can I write a check? Yes, you can.
It's like that term which I just mentioned, what's good? It is actually, you're actually saying, how are you? In America or any English-speaking country, you can use it now. It's a slang term, you know, yeah, what's good? Then you pick up a conversation and start sort of saying...
You usually know what the person means when they say it, and they don't use it like, you know, yo, like the way he did in there, like the who's on first thing. But, you know, I mentioned it like melody, it might have a musical component. I mean, let's pay a visit on the world of rap and hip-hop, because, I mean, talk about overused and played out. In that genre, if you were to remove the word yo from the hip-hop vernacular, would that genre just collapse? You know, I mean, and crumble to the ground? I mean, if a rapper had to pay $1 every time he or she used yo, wouldn't they quickly become po? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you could say the same thing in rock about hey.
Sure, you could. You know, it's a chant, but probably was no problem with it for me in the beginning, and then it started to get overused, and then that commercial comes along. I go, are you kidding me? It's like taking something that bothers you personally and just like magnifying it in your face, you know? You know, but the other people thought, oh, this is hilarious. In fact, when I found the clip, it was described as the hilarious Visa commercial. For somebody, it was hilarious. For me, no. I do want to say this, though, talking about personally. This doesn't bother me personally, but apparently one of the least popular words in our culture today is whatever.
I completely concur.
You know, apparently there are a lot of people that
They
really bugs them.
They say whatevs.
Yeah, or maybe
whatevs.
Maybe we should say
it's like they try and act really nonchalant. They're like, yeah, whatevs, but really 9 times out of 10 they're actually really rather bothered by it, but they're sloughing it off as something that's not really that important.
I probably should have prefixed it by saying reportedly people are bothered by the word whatever. Yes, well, that's all I had for examples. I just wanted to throw out some examples, and you can see
that's all you got, then?
Well, no. Well, what I meant was, you know, good word can range anything from melody to what you guys have said, and bad word can range from breeder, which really bothers me, to actually, which really kind of doesn't. But,
yes.
So the reason I wanted to throw out those examples is this is another one of Dan's audience participation moment. You know, I'm interested in hearing what Tom says. I'm interested in what Olivia says, but I really want to hear what the listeners say. And when you send in your good or bad word, you can just send it in written form, and one of us will read it. If you want to be bold, you can record yourself. Just keep it kind of on the brief side, but don't just give us a good and bad word. Also give us an explanation why it's a good word for you and why it's a good bad word for you. Don't say good word corn, bad word cabbage. You know, can't really work with that. We need a little bit more than that. Our best good word of all is listener. Listening, good word. Pandering, bad word. Yeah. I knew Tom would react to that. That's why I actually wrote it in here. I'll say this, and Tom will go, oh, Dan's pandering again.
Tom will be rolling his eyes over here.
And then I'll put, actually, one final thought and for Olivia, because you kind of started to go in this direction earlier. You know, in your line of work, you know, words, obviously very important. I mean, it's your job as an actor. You know, actress, is that a bad word? We talked about episodes ago. Is actress a bad word?
Whatever, Dan.
Whatever.
I'm fine.
I personally think it's amazing. But
I think it's brilliant.
It's brilliant and awesome.
Yo, man, this is brilliant.
So your job is to convincingly and compellingly convey words on stage or on screen. So what I want to ask you, have there been situations where, for a particular character, you were uncomfortable with the word they were given to use to the degree that you might have asked a director or a screenwriter, or let's say director, to change it?
Actually, yes, there have been.
Well, I imagine it would come up. I mean, if you're doing a particular role and you think, I don't think this person. would
Yeah,
say
it happens
this
all the time.
Yeah,
And
okay.
you know what? 9 times out of 10, what's the point of having it come out of you if it hits you the wrong way? I think actors are very sensitive about that because they're the ones conveying the character. And so they have no problem speaking up and saying, my character wouldn't say that.
Sure, like a screenwriter, it's the written thing. They hear it in their head.
Yeah.
I know Leonard Nimoy used to complain all the time about this isn't right for Spock. This isn't right for Spock.
Yeah.
But I mean, any kind of character. I mean, I would imagine, and like you say, you're the face of it. No one sees the director or the writer. They see you and your face saying those words. And
You can very, very often find ways to, unless you're just dealing with a writer who has an immensely large ego, and it's really not about their words. It's about that it's their authoritative right to have you say their words. And when it comes down to that, which doesn't very often, you can sometimes, just keep saying it, but the delivery doesn't seem to quite come out right. There's a way to be diplomatic
maybe
about
one,
it.
you could sabotage it by not.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
you just
by
kind
making
of
sure it doesn't work.
like, I'm sorry, I keep messing up that line. I just don't know.
Or you could
why.
just say it the way you want to enough times that they start to forget and think that's how it really goes.
Yeah.
There's a character in Zoolander called Mugatu, which is from Star Trek. The script said that this character was called a Gumatu. And DeForest Kelley had trouble saying Gumatu. And so he ended up saying Mugatu. And that became what it was just because he didn't say it right. Or it's like people say nuclear, and some people have trouble with a particular word. So yeah. And I guess then there's also the whole Woody Allen and Albert Brooks thing where the performer is the writer. Mm-hmm. So he can decide this will work better and I'm the writer and there's nobody going to argue with me.
Yeah. And funnily enough, most actors are frustrated writers. So, or over time, they actually, through navigating their way through their career and bad writing, they have to learn how to, protect themselves. And again, it's you displaying the character, conveying what it is and how that character's coming across, that it's in your best interest to become a good writer. And you can help shape a performance in a much more positive way if you can come up with your own words, and if people are open to it and a bit of collaboration, then it's great.
Any final thoughts, Tom, before we...
Well, I have... Fran came through with the what we think was the word.
That's what I was alluding to, yeah.
Which is the word enormity.
Enormity.
Which is generally used by, I think, most folks to convey the idea of size or scale.
Yes.
But that's actually not it. I mean, that's a component of it. Oh. But what enormity actually refers to, there's a moral judgment that goes along with it. The size or scale of something bad.
Oh.
And that's it. Not just the enormity of that building, but like the enormity of the...
Scandal.
Scandal, very good, yes. The enormities of this administration are making me hide under my bed at night.
So it has that twist to it that we don't... Because I would think enormity would have more general purpose, but it's more specific.
Yeah, so if you would have memorized that word or think about that word and how to use the appropriate vernacular for it, I would just... The first thing that comes to mind, because interestingly enough, being an actor, to memorize lines, you have to make it very visual. And it's almost like you see pictures or paintings. And I would think... like the enormity of something. It's like so many bad things have happened that it's enormous.
But it's interesting that because that is such a frequently misused word, you would think that the definition would start to slide a little bit.
Sometimes the definition of words change because people use them wrong and that becomes a new meaning. That does happen.
And shame on them.
Didn't that happen with literally recently? Where if you look in certain dictionary definitions now, literally means actually, and it also means metaphorically, like at the same time, which is kind of the weird, ironic Rosetta Stone to the entire English language.
A word I hear used incorrectly a lot is unfortunate. I consider that remark unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate just meaning bad.
Yeah, well,
meaning I don't like that.
Well, they
Meaning
make it sound like there's no intent behind it. You know what I mean? Like if you want to go out and play baseball and it rains, that's unfortunate. But if somebody says something to you, there's intent and purpose. It's not unfortunate. It's whatever it really is. Like Dan Quayle used it in a debate. You know, like I consider that remark unfortunate. Well, it's not about fortune. It's about this debate you're in.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Like I said at the beginning, I apologize. We're going to school this week. I apologize, everybody. But you know, it just as when we talked about smiling, and now when I use smiling to, you know, I'm self-aware. Same thing with words now. As I use them, I'm going to be thinking, oh, right, that's on my list of good words. Oh, that's on my list of bad words. And as people know the style of the show, Tom and Olivia didn't know my premise today, so they went off the top of their heads. If I would have told them ahead of time, write me a list, it'd be different. But now it's out there for everybody, so that's why I want to make this an ongoing thing, because it can kick off further debates. When somebody says, hey, enormity, I got another one. We go, oh, of course. This, you know, so that's what I'm thinking.
By the way, I was also online looking for anyone using plenipotentiary as an adjective in a sentence, and I haven't come up with one yet. So as of now, I'm holding on to my wordsmith card. I don't think I need to turn it in until it can be proven that I completely stuffed that up.
Well, that sounds like a great Scrabble word. I mean,
Yeah.
lay that down on Scrabble and you won the game.
Absolutely.
Speaking of words that are maybe overused and the flavor's been all chewed out of them to the point where they don't have any meaning anymore, you know, people toss the word genius around an awful lot.
Don't they just? And if you actually look up the definition of genius and you hear the genesis of where that word came from, it's not a consistent thing. You're not a genius all the time. It happens, it's in moments. And a lot that has to do with genius, and those moments of genius have to do with the emotions that propel you to get to a place where the genius kicks in.
Well, it's overused for sure.
It's, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's a whole topic.
Having said all of that, I will say that the song we're going to go out on comes right up to that line.
Yeah, that's why I kind of picked it. So, quick thank yous in absentia to Fran for helping out today, to Robert Lang and Susan Cullen for creating our jingle. And yeah, we're going to go out with one of Tom's favorite artists, We're Al Yankovic. Did I say We're instead of Weird? We're Al Yankovic. No, we're not. Weird Al Yankovic. This is his parody of Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines. It's called Word Crimes. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody shut up. Everyone listen up. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Turn me up. If you can't write in the proper way, if you don't know how to conjugate, maybe you flunked that class, and maybe now you find that people mock you online. Okay, now here's the deal. I'll try to educate you. Gonna familiarize you with the nomenclature. You learn the definitions of nouns and prepositions. Literacy's your mission, and that's why I think it's a good time to learn some grammar. What? Now did I stammer? Work on that grammar. You should know it. It's less or it's fewer. Like people who were never raised in a sewer. I hate these word crimes. Like I could care less. That means you do care. At least a little. Be a moron. Hey, you better slow down and use the right pronoun. Show the world you're no clown. Say you got an IT, followed by apostrophe. Yes, now what does that mean? You would not use this in this case as a possessive. No. It's a contraction. What's a contraction?
Well, it's the shortening of a word or group of words by omission of a single letter.
Okay, now here's some notes. Syntax, you're always dangling. No X in espresso. Your participles dangling. But I don't want your drama. If you really want, leave out that Oxford comma. Just keep in mind that BC are you. Are words not letters? Get it together. Use a spell checker. You should never write words using numbers. Unless you're 7 or your name is Prince. I hate these word crimes. You really need them. I hate them crimes. No time for freedom. I mean those crimes. Use them out freedom. Well, you should hire some kind of linguist to help you distinguish what is proper English.
One thing I ask of you, time to learn your homophones is past due. Learn to diagram a sentence too. Always say to whom, don't ever say to who. And listen up when I tell you this. that you'd gotten it through your skull, but what's figurative and what's literal? Oh, but just now, you said you literally couldn't get out of bed. That really makes me want to literally